What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Goddess Z, and I'm back with another podcast episode. I am super excited to be bringing this episode to you because it's going to be another episode where I'm actually with a guest. Okay, the last episode about the ancestors, I was being interviewed by Alicia Mayamba, but today I'm actually going to be the host and I'm going to be interviewing a very special guest on this platform today. So I hope everybody's been taking care of themselves, mind, body, and spirit because that's what it's all about. If any one of those things is out of balance, then we are out of balance. And we want to be making sure that we are holistically integrated in our lives and everything that we do, or at least working and striving towards that. So if you're new to this platform, welcome, welcome. Be sure to follow me, subscribe. That way you don't miss when I drop these episodes. These episodes will now be being dropped on the first Friday of the month and the third Friday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern. These will now be having guests. So I'm super excited about that because I've had this platform now for about 2 years, almost 2 years in December. And a lot of it was me, sharing my downloads and things like that. And now I'm starting to incorporate other healers and other energy healers and spectacular people who are also doing the work. And so I think it's better when we connect with one another and we kind of feed off of each other and we share with the world our gifts that we have to offer. So let me go ahead and get some business out of the way before we jump into today's episode and I introduce you to the guest. First and foremost, you can follow me on social media at Holistic and Spiritual AF, and that's and spelled out. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Substack now as a newsletter if you like to read. I also recently just dropped a book, The 5 Stages of Shadow Work, that's available on Amazon as well as a few other places. So you don't want to miss that. All of this information will be down in the description, as well as I'll be hosting a workshop, Raise Your Frequency workshop at the end of September. That's going to be September the 25th. That's a Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you definitely want to make sure you're checking out the description below for my information, how you can keep up with me, as well as how you can keep up with our guest because she's also a mover and shaker as well. And she's got some amazing things going on that she'll tell us about in the episode. All right, guys, that was a long winded one, but your girl is growing and the podcast is growing as well. And, my purpose, my alignment to purpose has me kind of doing a lot more, And if you listen to some of my past episodes where I was speaking of the downloads of why I started my podcast and, how my ancestors told me to just do it, it makes total sense at this point in time in my life. The things that I'm experiencing, the connections that I'm making, what's happening with the planetary movements and on the planet at this time. Everything is in divine alignment and in divine order. All right, guys, so enough about me. Let's go ahead and get you guys started and introduced to Maria Kowalski. She's going to be my guest today. She is a true goddess, okay, in the art of divine feminine healing. She has a company called La Musa Circle. She's going to tell us all about that. And today we're going to be having a discussion diving deep into the sacred power of womb healing, reconnecting with the Divine Mother, embracing ancestral healing. I mean, Maria's transformative work brings women back to their divine feminine essence. And this conversation is pure magic. Now, this is a video podcast, so make sure if you are able to see that, I believe on Spotify, maybe YouTube as well, that you go ahead and tune in and check us out. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So thank you so much, Maria, for agreeing to join me today on this podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. So, as I've already introduced you to my guest today, we have Maria Kowalski from La Musa Circle, and she is an expert and she works with women primarily. And she's a goddess. She is like a goddess in the true word of goddess. And she's an expert in things like womb healing, energy healing, divine mother connection, ancestral healing, Mother Earth, as well as shamanic healing. Okay, so she is a true goddess, and I'm super excited to connect with you today. So just tell me a little bit about La Musa Circle. Like, tell me a little bit about what it is that you do, your calling, and these different practices that you are an expert in.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I love how this connection happened. Um, we are sister goddesses, just reuniting, remembering. And the way you came into my life was through magic, because I'll tell you why. I was watching the Netflix documentary on Moses' life, which I've been wanting to see for a long time since it came out. And his wife was Zipporah, as you know. And while I was watching, I received a text message introducing yourself. My
Wow.
son sent me the message saying, listen, I want you to meet Zipporah. And I was like, wow. Because as I was watching, and I'm not answering the question you asked me, but I really wanted to start with this because La Musa Circle is about connection. It's about connecting with other women and connecting the dots together to remember the goddess, to remember the divine feminine, to remember who we are. As we know, remember comes also from the word, we're reassembling, we're remembering the pieces of the goddess. And we're putting this puzzle together among many sisters around the world, no matter what country, what background, what religion. We have done this before in other lifetimes. That is my deep feeling. And the way you came was like, wow. I was really moved. I said, because I was really feeling Zipporah in the film, in the series. And I was like, this woman was something else.
Yeah.
And then wow, I get chills. And then you come, it's like ancestrally, spiritually, I felt she did the connection, honestly, because it was just magical. And Z, it's like this goddess path has been woven with a lot of magic, with that magic that you can't really it just doesn't go with just the logical, um, just linear timelines. I am an individual who functions in society. I'm a mother. I've worked, in companies. So I know how to also have that balance, but the goddess is the mystery, is walking in the mystery. So when we say la musa, musa in Spanish means the muse. So for me, was like this connection to creativity, to beauty, to pleasure, to connecting to our bodies, because I had experienced a major shift when I started receiving energy work and then giving energy work. I felt how I became like from 2D to 3D to now we're talking about 5D.
Yeah.
The multi-dimensional of my being, my body, I felt different in my body. I felt more creative. I felt more light. I felt more sensual.
Hmm.
And it was a shift. I was very clear how that shift happened. So the muse, the musa, that's how this name came about. And then a friend um, also was a client, then became a friend. She said, Maria, musa that name stands for M, which is mujer, woman, U, which is universal, universal, S for wisdom in Spanish, which is sabiduría, and A for ancestral. So universal women of ancestral wisdom.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. It's like Sisters of the Celestial Womb.
Exactly. And my jaw dropped. I was like, that is exactly what it means. Because um, all of this, when this awakening started to happen in my life, started in 2002, and with a clear energy shift, and it was huge for me. And I really didn't have anybody around to talk about what was happening. It was just the door to the another level to access to the universe. I don't know what is the ultimate level. I don't. I think we will never reach the ultimate level. I think we're always opening new doors. Opened, and I wasn't expecting that, and so um, yeah, it was a very strong connection, no? And,
Awesome.
and I started to discover that we are really wisdom keepers. We hold in our wounds that special is the most special place. It's where life is created.
That's right.
And how we access wisdom that we just know. And we receive initiations when we're ready, directly from spirit, directly from Mother Earth, or the teachers come to your life. No? Teachers come into your life at the right time. And so that's how it started in 2002 with Reiki, energy healing, big major shift. And then slowly, it took me like 12 years to do Reiki 1 to go to Reiki 2 because it was so big for me.
Same.
And then 13 years ago, a little bit more, like 15 years ago, I received a womb blessing from this lady that I don't know if you know her. She's called Miranda Gray. She's from she's from the UK, and she
Okay.
has a worldwide womb blessing. She has 50,000 women connecting at the same time,
Wow.
receiving womb blessings. She wrote a great book. It's called The Red, and that was also like one of those milestones that you're like, wow, this was a before and after, no?
Hmm.
And then came the shamanic healing, and prior some ancestral healing to family constellations, but um, I just in all how we connected.
Yeah.
The goddess connected us.
That's awesome. Like I'm glad you told me that story because wow, that's in your journey so similar to mine, but the fact that you were watching the Moses story and finding out about Zipporah and I text you, that's that's pretty powerful. I think the last podcast episode that I did with a lady, she said something similar. She said that she had a dream and someone in the dream said, "You need to talk to Zipporah." And she had never heard that name before. And we actually ended up connecting on a writer's like platform that I'm on as well. And I'm like, wow. So when I hear this stuff, even though I know and I've always, called myself a goddess for a while because I've been on the path for almost as long as you. I think I started about 2004 and it was very similar. It wasn't a lot of people doing it and I was a seeker. So I went into learning different things. And my first experience with energy healing was Reiki 1. And it took me a long time to get 2 and 3 as well, because that was a big shift for me. But I think um, with me, my stuff lie more on the healing side. I had a lot of trauma and things to heal. So I stuck a lot with the healing. I had to do a lot of work, but I continued my path on and got into different paths as well. So I love to hear you talk about it, especially the times that we're living in now with the planetary movements, with us coming back to the divine feminine. I think we really are rising to our rightful places as goddesses, and we're connecting, like you said, all over the world because our energy is needed to help with the healing of the
It's
planet,
the only
all
way
of them.
out.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
the
only way.
only way out
Yes, yes.
for
So I
all
love
of us. For all of us, it
for
doesn't
everybody.
exclude anybody. No? It's
That's
for
right, and all that division and disconnect, we have to get rid of that because that's part of the problem, the different ways that we are divided. So I love that. I'm glad we connected. Something that I was drawn to when I started to look over your work and what you do was the womb healing. And you touched on that a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more in detail, like the benefits of that, like what a woman can expect from going through that process?
absolutely. That's a great question. Listen, I'll tell you how I started. I started with that um, blessing I received in Spain. I was living in Madrid, in Spain. And even though it sounded really strange or new, I knew deep inside it was important. It's like someone handed me a torch and I said, this is important. And I immediately started sharing it. So I moved to Miami and I started sharing the blessing and in women's circles. And then a friend of mine, through a community vegetable garden, shared with me the practice she was doing for postpartum, which was the yoni steams, the
Mm.
vaginal and root herbal saunas. And again, it sounded so strange, but it sounded like exactly is important. And even though I was not in postpartum, I decided I wanted to try it out. And I tried it for about 3, 4 years. And one day I was praying to the goddess, I was praying to the mother. I said, I want to offer something to the women in the circles. And after I did a yoga steam on myself, you usually have to do a relaxation afterwards. It's best because you enter into that shavasana, that space where the dots start to connect. And it said, offer yoni steam to the women, you know?
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
was like, yeah, why didn't I think about this before? So I started creating these ceremonies at home, one-on-one, where I would do beautiful. I would receive the women. I had studied herbalism too. And so it was not something completely foreign for me, to work with the herbs. And so I said, so I started doing the womb blessing plus the womb sound and then energy healing. And then the processes that would start to just open up, and women could just really, and so I saw so many women in my community. The word started to spread. And again, lots of these women were like, this is strange, but I feel the calling. And I realized, that the one silent epidemic that we have as women, and it's even painful to voice it out, is the disconnect that we have with our body, with our vulvas, with our womb, the ignorance that we have around how to care for ourselves, and which led me to a path to know where the beginnings of these practices, medical practices, which came from a slave here in the US. So horrible. And so, oh my God, it opened a whole universe. And I could see how each woman would just, if they put the consciousness on the womb,
Yes.
the if they would start to blossom, and things that were there as a block, as an energy block, will be released. So one will remember when this boyfriend was unfaithful, or if she had an abortion or a miscarriage, or she was trying to get pregnant, and or she wanted to be a singer and her parents never let her and she never voiced it out. So all that we didn't voice out or create it and put it out into the world, I started to see how this also was connected to our. And so it was a lot through practice that I went to also the marvelous course. I would recommend it here if anybody's feeling the call to
Okay.
study with Steamy Cheek. I don't know if you know her. She's amazing girl.
Okay.
SteamyCheek.com. I took her courses, and but my practice was more all the 3 years that I did it on myself, and then I received so many women, and that is what I realized from that deep knowing, that deep womb knowing,
Yes.
that the womb has a consciousness. And I've been there's a book I am writing about this to share. There's
Nice.
some books already out there. There's Queen Afua, who has
Yes.
done, maybe she is the one who started with all this work.
Well, I would
She's
say she's one of the
amazing.
ones.
She started with all this work. And so I get goosebumps because it was she brought us that, and even though her book didn't land on my lap at that moment when I started, I ended up I ended up knowing about her story and about what she does.
Yes.
She opened the path for sure. And so the womb has so much wisdom to share
Yes.
with us. I have a song in Spanish for the womb, and I just have seen it over and over. And the womb blessing that I share now is not the one I received in Spain, but one that came also with a lot of magic. It comes from the jungle in Peru.
Okay.
And Marcela Lobos, she's a shamanic healer. She's married to Alberto Villoldo, and they walk with the blessings of the Banyay key, which are 10 initiation rites that come from the Andes and from Peru, the mountains, the high Andes, and the jungle. And so this is very simple, but it says, my root is not a place to store fear or pain. My root is to create and give birth. And
Yes.
there's an energy transmission. Give this, and then as you receive it, you initiate yourself, and you can also share with as many women. So it's like a seed of light that is planted in the womb, and I was in awe. Grandmothers will come through, mothers will come through,
Yes.
and just so much love, and that love of the mother, which if you have felt her, my mother Mary, my mother, Mary Magdalene, is just Isis, Divine Mother Isis.
Yes.
And so my home became the place, a very humble, I mean, just a simple home, a townhouse in Miami, nothing fancy, in a beautiful place because it was in a forest. And for 7 years I received, and I call that place the temple, the goddess temple of divine love.
Oh, I love it.
And so it really was. All these women came and received this reconnection with the womb. And so it took me from there all the way to Egypt.
Wow.
Because I was feeling, wow, this is, that there were things happening, people that were going to Egypt before will come to me randomly to receive. I heard of you, I want to receive a session from you because I'm leaving tomorrow to Egypt. I'm like, wow, no way. So these things started to happen, no? Spirituality for me, I was raised as a Catholic in a Catholic family. I went to, Catholic nun school. Honestly, I was not exposed too much to any other religion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very close circle in Venezuela, in Latin America, in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And I would travel a lot. I did. My parents did give me that gift of traveling. So when I would travel, I would get exposed. Like in summer camp, people had different faiths, and we would pray like a non-denominational prayer. But still, I didn't have a lot of exposure, no.
Right.
But I question a lot of things, and I say this because I realized by experience that that spirituality is so broad,
Yes, it is.
and that connection is, and God is everywhere.
Yes.
And so if we're open, we can receive in dreams, in visions, in feelings that you receive, intuition, smell. You
Yeah.
can smell a presence, no?
Yeah.
And so there's been so much fear, around spirituality, and so much fear around women's power. And so we
Yes.
became super afraid of ourselves, no? And so we have installed like this, I call it when the computer has how do you call it? A,
Virus.
a virus, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got this, it's like a virus in our system. And so the womb healing is the opening the gateway to release this virus,
Yes.
to bring back, because there is terror still in our memory. I was terrified when I was openly public that I did, one part of me was like, yes. But another part was like, am I crossing the line? Can I just say vulva out loud? And, it's like, am I disrespecting? Am I supposed, you know?
Right.
So for me, I understood, and I understood through this connection, spiritual connection, that that the time is now. It's like this information has been stored like in a time capsule
Yes.
somewhere in the universe. In, I know where, in the Rosa Nebula. And now the key, and I feel I have to, I felt, why me? I feel so fortunate, but I also felt, and I'm just realizing this as I speak with you, a little bit of shame, because, and that's a whole topic, shame, but like, like I'm a little weird, no, kind of like, oh, I'm accessing this information. It's, like one point, wow, this is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And then walking with this, it took me a while to be like planted, and some, and firmly planted with, this is what I do and this is how I walk.
Hmm.
But I honestly, I fall back sometimes, like,
Yeah.
because it's so instilled in us.
It is. It is. And I totally understand what you're
Am I going
saying.
to be able to survive doing this? I'm
Yes.
going to pay my bills.
Yes. We live in such a masculine society that, like you said, it has us afraid of not expressing that divine feminine. But I'm so grateful that you answered the call. I mean, and I agree with you with the power of womb healing. I haven't gone to that extent. I have experienced yoni steaming before. But what I did know is, a lot of my work that I do is surrounding trauma, and healing trauma. And so I got involved in Tantra. I think it was maybe 2015 along my journey, because I just felt like my spirit knew that there's something off with your sexuality is skewed because of past traumas in that
Yes.
area. And so that's where I was able to get a lot of healing, womb healing, and releasing of that. But I feel like I just skimmed the surface of that. I feel like I just kind of started the beginning based on what you're actually describing, to be able to let all of that out, and the fact that the fear is stored in there.
It's
Because,
slowly, because
yeah.
the mother, we know the mother. She is the, she can be, no, she is the jaguar, no, she is the jaguar.
Yeah.
And she'll come and she'll, but she's also very gentle. And
Yes.
it is a lot of trauma we all carry because it's ancestral. We look back,
Mhm.
which woman didn't suffer
Yeah.
some type of abuse or neglect, or it's, I get goosebumps, no?
Yeah.
Because yes, so it's better slowly, slowly,
Yes.
gentle, slowly but surely and gentle, because eh, it opens up the doors. There was once, I'll share with you, there was once this lady came, and I knew I couldn't do the yoni steam. I
Mhm.
knew she was, spirit's like, no way, she's not gonna open that door. And her story was intense because um, she was a teenager back when her trauma happened, and her parents found out she was having sexual relationships, and they took her out of school overnight, sent her to another state. She wasn't able to say goodbye to that lover boyfriend she had or her friends, and they sew her vagina back so she would
Wow.
have hymen. And
Wow.
so
That's trauma.
uh and so I couldn't. And so I held her like a baby. We sat down and I just held her like a baby. I said, "Are you open to?" It's very intimate to hold someone like a baby,
Yes.
That's something. And and she said yes. And so we had that moment, and that was more than enough. No,
Yeah.
sometimes we just don't have to go into that wound
Yeah.
and no, you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty intense. So yeah, you really opening my eyes to maybe exploring some of that more. Something else you talked about that I'm also passionate about is ancestral healing.
Yeah.
Um, tell me a little bit more about that and your experience with that.
It's all is in the roots.
Yeah,
Everything's in the roots.
I love it. Yeah.
Everything. Look, I'm working on this is like some notes.
Oh
I have
wow.
here 18 mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers
Oh
from
wow.
both of my, and some grandfathers too.
Wow.
And all is in the roots.
Hmm.
Those things that we don't know why we feel or why are we stuck with the same situation over and over. I feel is the family tree just speaking to us, no?
It is.
Eh, I became aware what, you know, in Mexico, I'm not from Mexico. Sometimes people feel in the US that everybody who speaks Spanish is from Mexico, but no,
No.
I'm not from Mexico, but I
Right.
love Mexico very much.
Hmm.
I have deep respect for their culture and beautiful, beautiful country. And they have the Day of the Dead, no? Celebration.
Yeah.
And it's so important because, and I'm now studying a course with Perdita Finn that I highly recommend her work with ancestors. She's amazing. And so that's another topic, but she always says they're here, no? They're here with us, and they want us to move forward in a good
Yes.
way.
Yes.
And and doing ancestral work started in 2004 for me after a tragic experience in my family, very tragic. My eldest brother committed suicide.
Mm. Sorry
And
to hear that.
so, can you imagine? It was devastating. And I was doing a pilgrimage in Spain called Camino de Santiago. And someone completely unknown to me, I told her, listen, this year was hard. 2002 was that time. Um, this happened, and she's like, "Oh, you should do family constellation." I'm like, "What is that? Ancestral healing." I'm like, "Oh wow!" Again, never heard of it. Sounded a little bit strange, but okay. And 2 years later, I found the right moment and the right people to do it. And so, fast forward to today, I don't know how many family constellations I've done on myself. Like I've done and I've helped others, and now I've combined that that knowledge that I received with the shamanic healing practices too.
Yes.
And so it unties a lot of knots. There's
Hmm.
a figure, you know, the mother has many names, many colors, many figures in different cultures. You know,
Hmm.
she's everywhere. And there's one that is the Pope now says is his favorite, and she's called Maria de Satanudos, the one that unties the knots. And she's with a big string full of knots, and she's untying knots.
Hmm.
And that's what happens with ancestral healing. It's also about integrating,
Yes.
because we're in an era where we are coming back to fusion. So integrating everyone, because everyone belongs. I think if one thing is very common in ancestral healing is all the outcasts,
Yes.
people who were born that were not recognized, were not given the last name, a, a miscarriages or abortions that were not included, everything that was not included, my mother's or grandmother's first love, everything belongs. The abusers, they belong
Hmm.
because when I learned this, I was like, wow, because you don't want to belong to, you're like, no, no.
Right.
But that's when divine mercy comes through. Because if you think about it, we are all children of God.
Yep.
Even the person who has done the most horrible things, and God doesn't move. God is God all the time. For me, I see like this a column of goodness, of love, of joy, of ecstasy, of all that is pure and holy and expansive
Mm-hmm.
and dark, not only light, but
Yes.
also that dark light, of the universe. And so God wants us back.
Yeah.
How can
Tell
we
me
come
about
back
it.
to that alignment? And so if we include the outcast, we accept, we're like,
Mm.
okay, they also belong, because that also gives you the picture that everybody's walking with so much trauma and pain. And that if someone was an abuser, it's because someone abused that person. And
Yeah.
so mercy can come through, and mercy brings a lot of peace and healing. Because justice, we want revenge.
Right.
But mercy is like, do you want to have the reason, or you just want to have the peace? So ancestral healing brings a lot of that mercy and that order, untying those knots, including the lights and the shadows, so that they
Yes.
can be released,
Elevated.
and you can feel that release energetically in your mind, in your
Yeah.
body, and you can find love, move forward, be successful. Because out of loyalty, we decide to take on what that ancestor was, didn't we just say, okay, I'll continue to, because I want to belong. And out of
Right.
loyalty, I want to belong, and I want to take on whatever it is that you did, abuse women, or be poor, or, you know, X, Y, or Z, or never marry, or,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
That's
those
actually
loyalties sometimes are not that good. We need to
no.
just like say, okay, I love you, but I don't want to keep on this loyalty. It's not helping me. And very important, whatever good deeds our ancestors did, oh my goodness, that is manna that is coming to us, you know? So we should thank those ancestors.
Yes.
Whatever they did that wasn't too good, and everyone's ancestors has whatever, it's it's human drama. Uh, so we're still drinking from that also, and it really lasts. That's where the multi-generational
Yes.
curses and stuff. And I've seen, yeah, they're real.
They're absolutely real.
So it's deep work. And then with the shamanic comes like the next level of understanding that that connection, no?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, you broke that down a lot deeper. I always say that our we're like a database that we hold all the information from our ancestors in our DNA. So a lot of our shadow selves is some of it is our patterns and behaviors, but it's the patterns, like you said, it's the connection of the tree, it's the synapses of the neurons, the energetic neurons of we're tapping into certain types of behaviors and we can't figure out why, but also the good stuff too, that we have access to as well. So that's deep stuff. I love it. I love it.
And
Thank you,
what
Maria.
Perdita says, call on
Call
them
on
like
them.
they're your helpers.
Yes.
They're willing
Yes.
to help us out.
They are, and I love my ancestors. I'm actually writing a book right now. I wrote one that was more self-help on the 5 stages of shadow work. So the shadow work kind of
Mhm.
gets into that a little bit too. But this one is about my ancestors raised me, and that it kind of goes into the connection that I had with my ancestors as a young child, like way before I even knew anything about spirit guides and
Oh my
ancestors,
goodness.
and growing into the woman that I am today and recognizing that my ancestors have been there all along. They've been there all along, and there's such a variety of them. There's ones that walk with me for everyday things, help me find things. There's ones
Mm.
that help me with deeper understandings of life, and they're just here to assist and guide us. And there's some patterns that I've repeated to be able to break the cycle. So it is so deep, like the whole connection, the whole energetic universal connection. So yes, thank you for your expertise on that. Tell me a little bit about, it looks like you have a 9-week journey coming up here. So you've got something on September the 8th. Tell me a little bit about that, as well as where we can find you.
Thank you. It's called Remembering You.
Mm,
It's going to be a journey based on two experiences that me and Andrina Pradas, I'm doing this work with her,
okay.
had, and combining what we both bring and what we have been walking, no? When I started doing all this womb work, I had a very deep energetic connection with Isis.
Mm,
And for me, it was completely new in this lifetime because I was
yes.
not exposed to any of the ancient, Egypt, the
Hmm.
tarot, but it came through a very, very important. It marked my life also, before and after. That was in 2013. Then all the womb work got, ignited. And so in 2019, through a journey with plant medicine, I received a second very important connection with Egypt. And I knew I had to go. I knew. And then all these things, women started to come. I'm going to Egypt. And I said, okay, I'm going. I'm going. I received the invitation. I always feel that Egypt invites you,
Hmm.
or Peru, or whatever place you're called to go. It's like those ancestors are inviting you to come.
Yes.
And we prepare, I get goosebumps. We prepare the most beautiful journey. It was called the initiation journey. And we were 9 women, came as true goddesses. We brought gifts to bring, literally brought gifts. And we did ceremonies there. We did fire ceremony, despacho ceremonies, and we visited the temples through the Nile and in the city. And that was 2 years ago. But before we went, we decided to do an online program, and we did a 21-day journey. And we basically did the tour that we were going to do, but we did it online. And the reviews were incredible. People were like, "Oh, I was able to connect the dots. I was able to heal. I saw Mother Mary. I saw." And so 2 years after this journey, the physical journey that we went, we decided we were ready to share what we received there. So we're going to
Okay.
do a 9-week online. It's going to be group only for women. And it's going to have the meditations. It's going to have 3 of the Munai Key rites initiation. And we're doing like an intro call so that we can share more in depth. And it's going to be
Right.
September 8th. It's Sunday.
Okay.
And if anybody wants and feels the call, I think it's whether you know anything about Egypt, or if you've never been, or if you've been, it's going to be a very energetic. We're going to go through the chakras because
Mm,
each temple is aligned to one of our chakras in our
wow.
body.
Yes.
And they say that each temple is also aligned to a chakra of the earth.
Hmm.
So it's a very special. We're going to work with the elements to do some alchemy,
Yes.
for transformation, for happiness. And Dana is a happiness ambassador. She has worked for many years, 20 years in human resources. And she's a Reiki master, so she does also energy healing. And the call is going to be September 8th at 11 a.m. And people can find more in my webpage, which is Maria Milagros. That's my second name. .soy. And Milagros is my middle name, which is miracles. Maria Milagros .soy. And everything is there.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think I may actually check you guys out. September the 8th, that's coming up.
Yeah.
So by the time this actually airs, it'll be September the 1st. So you'll be coming up very soon. So that'll give everybody at least a week to go ahead and sign up. Ladies only for this one. It sounds like a very powerful event. with you and your partner, Angelina Pradas. No, Andrina, excuse me, Andrina
Reina.
Pradas. Adrina. So
She
yes,
also
thank.
does work with ancestors. And a lot of people call her Angelina because she channels angels. But
Awesome. Okay.
see, it was so lovely. We
It
would
was
love to have
lovely.
you on the 8th. I think
Yeah.
this connection, I would love to meet you, get to know more about your work, and
Yes.
very interesting. I would like to read one of your books. I also have a book out, but it's in Spanish now.
It's okay. Yeah. What's the name of it?
So, aquí estoy, Madre Tierra. I have it here. Just
Okay.
show you.
I'll be sure to put the link down in the description
It's
for
in
all
all
of your
the
stuff.
platforms. So it's
Yes.
poems and songs of
Okay.
a woman in her flowering.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it has been a truly insightful gift to have you on the show today. And I thank you once again for coming out and sharing all your divine feminine wisdom. Like, I knew that I was like, this is a goddess. This is no questions asked. Like, this is somebody who's gone through the work and who lives and embodies what it means to be a goddess. And now you're sharing your gifts to the world with other women. And so you truly are a blessing to us. And I'm so grateful that I met you. I'm so grateful that you accepted this invitation. And, I can't wait to get the word out there. So everybody knows what to do. Make sure you check the description. Make sure that you go and follow Maria Kowalski and check out her workshop coming up on September the 8th. All of that information is going to be down in the description. So thank you once again for coming out and doing this podcast with me. Thank you.
Thank you, C. It takes a goddess to know a goddess.
That's right, from goddess to goddess.